Hey there, guys. So today I'm going to talk about why I became a doula, which is probably the most asked question I get, especially in first-time consults with prospective clients. So I became a doula this past year, and I'll go into on another episode what it's like to go through the certification process and kind of give an overview of that on my Patreon. Um, if you want to subscribe to my Patreon, that video will be on there, so you can learn, what it's like to go through that process and all the steps you have to take to do it. But today's episode will be solely based on, my life experiences and what brought me here. So it all kind of started when I was about 20 years old. Um, I got pregnant with my first child, and I was in sort of a newer, shorter relationship with someone at the time. Um, and absolutely no shade to them. He's a great dad. Um, we just weren't compatible together. Um, a little bit toxic to each other. We fought a lot. We just didn't see eye to eye on a lot of things. But that's okay. So we got pregnant. I was 20 years old. I want to say he was 22 or 23 at the time. Um, and, he wasn't ready to be a father. So I really had to make that like hard decision to either use my right to choose or to keep the baby. So I decided eventually to keep the baby. Throughout my pregnancy, my partner wasn't super supportive, just because he felt like he was being forced into it, which, to be fair, like, I get it. We weren't ready. But I had made the decision. So, not super supportive. Really, my biggest support person was my mom and my best friend, Melissa. Um, they did a lot of things to like help me get ready for my baby and stuff like that. And even my sister did a lot of stuff, threw me a baby shower and made sure I had everything I needed. Um, and going into labor, my partner was also not super supportive. But to be fair, most men, their first time watching someone have a baby, they just kind of stare at you in awe and don't know what to do because they don't know what you're going through. So like I totally get it. But labor, not super supportive. I was so young, and the hospital that I delivered at, which is honestly my favorite hospital to deliver at, I'll never deliver anywhere else. Um, Although my first time being there, I was just so young. They kind of took advantage of that and really pushed heavy on interventions and stuff like that. But because I like hadn't done any research on the process or what anything looked like or what my rights were as a birthing person, I kind of just let them, in order to be a good patient. So labor and delivery was very, very hard for me. I didn't know much at all about what I was doing. I kind of just let them run the show, and went to the hospital to give birth and was in a lot of pain, and they didn't really believe me that I was, having contractions because I had asked for food because I was hungry. Um, but so they gave me a shot to put me to sleep so I would be quiet. And I fell asleep, and the next morning when I woke up, they said, okay, we're going to check you. And if you're not in labor, we're sending you home. And I was like, okay, well, I'm definitely in labor. Like, I feel it. Like, I know I'm in labor. They checked me. I was at 5 centimeters already, which I already knew in my head, like, it was go time. So they were like, okay, like, we're not going to send you home. You're in labor. Like, let's have a baby today. So And the entirety of my labor lasted probably like 3 days because I was in like very early labor for the first day into the night when I was asleep. I did a couple of things. I tried the ball. I really couldn't get comfortable. Um, and then I did IV pain medication, which, for those of you who have given birth before, for those of you who don't know, IV pain medication for labor and delivery most oftentimes is fentanyl or something called Nubane. You can either have a great reaction to it in my experience, or you can have a really bad reaction to it. I've seen people like really get use out of it and be able to like be up and about and talking and acting their normal selves, but I've also seen people have it and just be totally like tripping balls. And mine was the latter, so I got the IV pain medication and I just laid in the bed and tripped balls for, I think it was like 4 hours, 3 or 4 hours. And I was like, I don't ever want that again. When I like finally came to, I was like, please, no, no more. Like, I can't do that. That's too much. Um, so I just ended up with an epidural really early. Um, just because I didn't have the resources to kind of guide myself through the pain because I didn't know what it was going to be like. And got the epidural super early, so I labored again for like another whole day. And then eventually, when it came time to push, I was so numbed up I couldn't move my legs just because I kept hitting the button over and over again and nobody told me to stop. And I pushed for, I want to say it was like 3.5 hours before my baby was born. She was perfectly healthy, which is funny that it took me so long to push her because she is my smallest baby I've ever had. She was like 5 pounds and 14 ounces or something like that. Very, very small girl. But she took the longest to push out naturally. And yeah, so I had a baby girl, I was in like a super dark place when I had her. I said some probably alarming things to my care team at the hospital, which ended me um, in a sort of psych hold after my delivery. They didn't actually hold me at the hospital or an inpatient, but they did have a nurse calling me twice a day to check on me. And they had me coming into the office like 3 or 4 times a week for the first 4 weeks to check on me and like my well-being and my mental state, which, to be fair, like, that's healthcare working. So um totally not holding anything against them. They did what they were supposed to do. So in the long run, I eventually like sort of came out of it feeling a little bit better, feeling a little bit more myself as time sort of went on, although I was still in like a really dark place. Um, but looking back on my experience, like a week or two after my birth, I really was so thankful for the labor and delivery nurses who showed me so much care and compassion. um, the labor and delivery nurse who helped me pee for the first time after I gave birth, who sat there with me and held my hand because I was afraid to pee and afraid to go to the bathroom because of um, what I had just been through. She literally sat there and held my hand with me while I was on the toilet and helped clean me up. And I just like, I felt so well taken care of, and I felt so, I don't know, sort of empowered, I guess, by their care towards me. Um, and at the time, I mean, I've been waiting tables my whole life, so that's what I was doing for a living. And I started to look into like what I would need to do to become a nurse and possibly work in a labor and delivery unit. Um, But, you know, I was just in such like a vulnerable place financially, mentally, physically that I just didn't really care to go through with any of it. I never had the grades in high school to like go to college or, you know, really test well. So I decided to kind of put it on the back burner, and, you know, went on with my life, waiting tables and so forth. And then with my second baby, different partner, my current husband, Evan, he's very loving, very kind. He's a great guy. But again, being at a birth for the first time, you don't really know what to do. So a lot of my second birth and third births, he kind of just sat there and stared at me and like didn't know how to help. Um, so although the second and the third birth were much better because I had educated myself on what my options were for positioning, for movement, for medications, for pain management, all that. I really, you know, took all of that in stride with my second and third births. Um, I did a lot of self coping by myself at those times. Second birth, I was in and out of the tub a lot. I did a lot of nitrous stuff, and yeah, I had a healthy baby and a good delivery. Still had an epidural. I only pushed for, I want to say, an hour for my second, and then my third, I had labored at home for basically as long as I felt I could, which was about a whole day. And I didn't really tell anybody I was in labor, but my mom had come upstairs because she lives downstairs from me, and she just took one look at me and she said, "Are you in labor right now?" And I was like, "How do you know?" And she's like, "I can just tell by the look on your face." And then she like felt my stomach. She's like, "Yeah, you're in labor." And I was like, "Yes, I know, Mom. I just wasn't gonna tell anybody because I didn't want to set off any alarms." My husband had like ordered a pizza and was playing video games upstairs while I was like hardcore laboring in our living room, because I don't think he believed that I was actually in labor. But then eventually, like around nighttime, we went to the hospital and things were starting to get like hot and heavy, and I couldn't talk through the contractions on the way to the hospital. So I knew it was going to be a quick one. And I was only in labor, I want to say, like overnight at the hospital. And then I had my baby first thing in the morning. I also had an epidural with my third one, because right when I hit like 7, 8 centimeters, I was just like, I can't do this anymore. Like, please get me an epidural. I can't self cope anymore. Um, and so my third baby, I want to say I pushed for maybe like 15 minutes. She kind of just flew right out. So after my third baby, I really started to like have like a hardcore interest in the birth and the labor process and what it's like to have a supportive partner who knows what to do, who can see it on your face and instinctively know, like, okay, I need to do this with her, or okay, let's go for a walk, let's change positions. Um, and I'm not exactly sure what I was watching one day, this past year. I want to say it was like in January when it just sort of like I had an epiphany. I don't know what I was watching. I was watching something. Either it was a medical show or something like that where someone said birth doula. And I was like, what's a birth doula? Because I didn't know before, didn't know what that was. Um, and I Googled it and I Googled how to become one. And I was like, this is something I could actually tangibly, like, I could I could achieve this. This could be tangible for me. Um, because it doesn't require like crazy college courses or um, you know, crazy test taking. Granted, it does put you through the ringer being certified, because you do have to take all the classes and do the work to get it. Um, but it was totally something that I was looking at as like, okay, I could achieve this. And I just instantly started like researching, Googling, like figuring out what I could do to like get this thing that I wanted so bad. And it just kind of came on like full force. Um, just like crazy balls to the walls. Like my whole life just suddenly became it. And it was great. So I took my class, my DONA approved workshop. It was 3 days in Massachusetts, and I stayed at an Airbnb in Roxbury for 3 days. And after that, I emerged, and I was like, "This is it. This is what's gonna fill my cup. This is what's gonna bring me happiness." And I landed an internship at a local hospital being a birth doula so I could see more births happen. Um, and really, that just solidified more because I was just so excited to be on the labor and delivery floor and to be helping people that it just like, I was like, this is just amazing. This is it. Um, and yeah, I've just been crazy into it ever since. My whole life revolves around pregnant people, labor and delivery, and learning as much as I can and getting as much as I can for education. And it's all been like crazy surreal. I quit my full time salary restaurant manager job to pursue this. I'm still waiting tables part time, but I'm also currently owning my own business, working with a um, working with the Relief Parenting Respite in Hampton to get me some more clients, and then I'm also still working at the hospital as an intern, which by the time I turn in my certification in the next week here, hopefully I'll be like a full per diem on call doula, which would be great. Get me in some more births. So far, I've been to about 6 births. I've been to like a few more like labors, but not stayed to see the births at my hospital job just because like I had to clock out after 12 hours. So yeah, that's my story, and that's why I became a doula. And I hope you enjoyed this episode and stay tuned for more. Thank you.